Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Better Man. As music biopics become a bigger and bigger genre, we have seemingly every major musical artist you can think of has a musical biopic. It becomes a bit of a kind of stale genre. You have to go through the hits of someone's career, you have to play all the big songs, you have to show how they came up with those songs, how the band got back together, all that stuff. It feels kind of boring as a genre, especially if you know the journey of those artists before. And although we had Walk Hard like a while ago, and you think that sort of made fun of the genre and it should have, not gone on the way it did, the genre pretty much ignored that movie. But I think Better Man is sort of another kind of version of being like, I'm sick of these biopics, let's do something a little different with it. And this being a biopic of British pop star Robbie Williams, and instead of having an actor play Robbie Williams or a lookalike or himself, they have a CGI monkey play Robbie Williams. No one else is a CGI monkey, just Robbie Williams, the entire movie. And that's sort of not its only thing. It's not just like a regular biopic, but there's just a CGI monkey there as Robbie Williams, who's the main character in every scene. There's a lot more stylized stuff going on and messing with sort of not telling everything from his real life story, telling the big parts, being a little weirder in times than you probably expect for something like this. This was kind of looking at someone who is, is very cheeky, very silly, very tongue-in-cheek and stuff, but using his persona within the biopic itself. This isn't what usually it is where you look at Bohemian Rhapsody or any others. It's like you're watching a movie studio make the story of the artist, whereas this almost feels like the artist forcing the movie studio from their own perspective and their own kind of artistic lens and auteur voice and all that stuff. And I quite like that about this. This was actually more fun than it probably should be, and a lot more alive than you'd expect for a biopic in general. I don't really say biopic. I don't know who came up with that. It sounds stupid. It's biopic. They're separate things. Whatever. I don't know why people do that. It's so obnoxious. It sounds like there's some weird disease you got or something. Basically, it's the story of Robbie Williams. If you're unfamiliar with Robbie Williams, he's much bigger in England and overseas. There is a Netflix documentary if you want a straight point A to point B version of his life. Basically, if you don't know, he was in this boy band Take That, which was not really big over here in America. It was very big in the UK. And then he went solo and was a huge success. And the only thing that I think that came over here was Rock DJ, the music video, which is a music video I really like. My wife's British, and we saw this for her birthday because she wanted to see it. And actually, I had been curious about this film. I don't know if I would have seen it in other theaters. This is the first movie I'm seeing in theaters in 2025, so that's cool. And I saw the documentary on Robbie Williams. I probably know more than your average American, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I probably don't. But I know some stuff, and I know he was in Take That, and I know the songs. And I did watch the Netflix documentary whenever that came out, a little bit ago. But at the same time, when he was talking to the girl on the ship, I don't really know any All Saints songs. They really didn't mean anything to me. It's not I'm too cool. They really didn't break over here, so they weren't this omnipresent pop star and thumbing my nose. They came on occasionally and they're not my thing. But I didn't recognize what was going on there. There's certain things wait, who's that? I didn't, but I don't think that will ruin your enjoyment of the film. But I do have sort of a baseline sort of knowledge of them. I did think that just seeing there's certain sequences in this film that when it's just a regular biopic, but there's just a CGI monkey there, although I did like that a lot. I actually thought certain sequences, when he's showing Take That success, they're a huge boy band, he does this epic kind of dance sequence, which is one of the great maybe dance sequences of this year, to be honest. The way it's filmed and the dancing was incredible, all that stuff. They do it to Rock DJ, which was a Robbie Williams solo song, not a Take That song or whatever, but they do this whole thing, and usually you see in a biopic they do this like, oh, we've made it, and they'll do like a whole montage, and like you see them do all the big, photo shoots and TV appearances, recreate all this stuff. But instead of, which I don't love that idea narratively, to be honest, but watching them like have fun and dance around to Rock DJ was really cool, and I actually liked it. It like had a style to it, had a vibe to it, had an energy to it that like just having a regular like, oh, remember when they were on the Top of the Pops the second time and they were on this album cover kind of crap. Like it just like, you get that they were fun, you get the vibe of the band, you get that he enjoys being famous, everything like that. And then when they show parts right after that, it gives you the full context, but it's also like an amazing dance scene. So you can look at it both narratively and be like, wow, that was really, really cool. There's another sequence where he quits the band, or the band fires him basically, and he drives through the gate, and then it gets really weird and stuff. And I love those sequences. Not enough movies do sequences like that. And honestly, this director, Michael Gracie, who, to be totally honest, I saw The Greatest Showman, which is his last movie. I did not really like that movie or the direction at all. And I'm kind of surprised I like this movie as much as I did, and that it's directed as well as it is. It felt like he was having a lot more fun messing around with it. And I'm glad they had a director who wanted to do a little bit more with these sequences, like play with them a little more, like play with the movie, leave out certain things, keep in other things. He did do, yes, the big iconic concert he has is in here. Most of the big songs, from all that stuff, but it felt like it was like there was more, felt like a little more playful, which I think works with Robbie Williams' whole persona. Which you don't, that's the other thing, is like almost all of them feel like, they're like precious, super famous people, and we gotta get all these things. And this felt like, well, we're doing that, but it felt like this guy actually liked Robbie Williams, and I feel like a lot of them are just like them, but are in all of them. It is like kind of like they were chums or something. I can't speak to like it didn't really do this accurately, or like how I felt about the casting of the guy who played Gary Barlow or whatever. I'm not that, but as someone who's not as attached to him and his celebrity and stuff of Robbie Williams, I did actually think, even if you don't know him, it's a really interesting pilot. Like if I was gonna see it, it sort of reminded me of Rocket Man, and maybe Rocket Man's a better movie and has better songs because Elton John and stuff. But I felt like this one, like its view of doing a biopic was so much fun. I quite enjoyed that. The one who plays Grant, Allison Steadman, who I only really know from Gavin and Stacey. She was really good in this. But everyone who played this CGM, Robbie Williams, I thought did a great job. It had just I don't know. I think it's kind of a movie that I don't think will really break in America as much, unfortunately. But I think it goes beyond like whether you care about Take That or Robbie Williams. I think it's actually got a fair amount of interesting energy to it in a way that I don't know. I get really bored by biopics. I just don't find them to be very interesting unless you have an actual perspective. And this is like an actual perspective. Like this is like they actually thought, like they didn't go. I think, well, what I think is interesting is they didn't go, Robbie Williams movie is interesting. They were like, that's nobody. They almost seem not interested in doing that. Which I think most people would go, wouldn't it be interesting if we did this story as a movie? It seemed to not be as interested in that. It seemed to be interested in the perspective of telling that story, which I think is like what makes these artists interesting in the first place. So, it should remind me of I don't know if people like it as much, but the Kevin Spacey Beyond the Sea, remind you of biopics that want to play around and mess around more and do something different, which I liked. I liked that about this movie. I liked all the sequences. The monkey thing, I never not noticed, but I sort of liked always noticing it because he always sort of stuck out. But the movie doesn't treat him like he is a monkey. He says at the beginning, like he views himself that way, and clearly has a very low opinion of himself, which the film goes through about like his dad, his relationship with fame and performing and writing music and like figuring things out. And yeah, it could have dwelled on things more, but you have a documentary that obviously he also worked on, because Robbie Williams is in it, that I think can do that. But if you want like the overall experience of like what the persona and rise and celebrity of Robin Williams is, I think that this movie works very well at encapsulating that. And I think, honestly, like, if I had more biopics like this, I'd be far more interested. That sounds way more fun, because, like, so many of these people I've seen 7 or 8 documentaries on, I've read a couple books on, you know, I've listened to all the albums, and now we're here, and it just feels like, I get, like, maybe if you hadn't heard this, maybe it's more interesting, but it just doesn't, none of them feel interesting cinematically or trying to do anything different. And you know what, this one, I don't know if it will change anything, but I do think it, like, attempted something, and for a genre that doesn't feel interesting at all, this felt like an interesting movie. So, you know, I actually had a lot of fun with this movie. I would watch it again. I like that it didn't let go of it. I do think a let go of trying to be its own unique thing. I do think the sequences are the best part of the movie. I wish more of that had been throughout the rest of the film. I don't think, as much as I'm talking about how, like, messes about and plays with the energy of it, I do think, like, the real special thing is, like, the rock DJ sequence, or the sequence after he left the band, or the sequence of the when he's in rehab and stuff like that. Like, those were the most interesting. Like, and I stopped thinking, like, this is real life or anything. I was like, this is very much a sum up or a fantasy of what he views it as, but it's very much portrayed as such as well. So it's congrats to movies that want to have fun with their subject matter. And I think Better Man, you know, it's interesting. We might not think of Robin Williams as a big superstar or even an interesting artist, but he was smart enough at least to make an interesting movie out of being the artist that he is. I think Michael Gracie made, you know, the Robbie Williams movie and wasn't really concerned with making the Hollywood biopic of Robbie Williams. And I think that makes this movie a lot better for it. So if you've seen Better Man and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.